You know, sometimes I really feel like I'm just in hell. You guys get that? I mean, you got the prices are ridiculous, and then I don't know. I feel like I get treated a lot of times like I'm, God, I don't know, like other people walk around just sunshine and roses or something thrown at their feet. You know, people like, well, I mean, check out like Hunter Biden, for instance, right? People like, you know, there's tons of people like that, you know, even in lower positions on a different level, that just walk around and they can do any fucking thing they want, man. They can diddle kids and fucking smoke crack and run around and deal drugs and do all kinds of criminal shit, and nothing ever fucking touches them. Nothing. But I feel like if I spit on a fucking sidewalk, I'm gonna have a goddamn SWAT team fucking show up and kick my head in or something, you know? Well, you know, that's an exaggeration. That's definitely an exaggeration, but just things are fucked up, man. It's like we live in a world where there's different classes of people. If you're in one class, or whatever, then just gold rains down from the sky or something, you know? And if you're someone else, it's like you, I mean, I don't know, I'm discouraged about, like, the idea of going and getting a job and stuff, right? I'll be honest, because it's like, you get a job, right? And then you can't afford to even fucking live with the pay that you're getting. I mean, places around here, back in like the 70s and 80s and shit, people were renting houses for $50 a month or something. Even within just a short time, even if you even just go back to like 2010, man, there were people renting apartments for $300 fucking a month. Even back, that's not that long. There were used camper van. You could find a used camper van for sale for $500. You could find a camp trailer, an RV, for less than $2,000. That was in great condition. Now something like that would be like fucking 20 grand, 15, 20 grand or more, you know? Same with the fucking vans, right? There's people at the motel that I stay at, right? And all the motels that I've been to have a bunch of people that live in the motel. People that had jobs their entire fucking life. Good jobs. People with fucking Ferraris and nice big pickup trucks and shit. But they can't get into a fucking an apartment because they just don't qualify, they don't make enough. There's people living on Social Security and stuff from some job they worked their whole life, and they can't afford anything better than a motel room because the apartments won't even let you get in. If I was making $20 an hour, if I had some job 40 hours, you know, full-time, $20 an hour, which back in the day would be, whoa, huge, you know. But even if I had something like that, work full-time, $20 an hour, that would barely, like, my paycheck wouldn't even hardly pay for barely for my motel and my storage fee and shit, you know. It's like, and I sure as fuck couldn't get approved for an apartment because the apartments are fucking $1,500, $2,000 a month for the cheap ones. Quote, cheap, right? I had this so-called apartment for a little while, for like 4 months. There was this basement room There was like paint fumes and fucking giant spiders the size of a mouse and shit like that. Damn near. I mean, the first time I saw one of these fucking things, it was a little dark, and I look over and I see something moving across the floor. I thought a mouse came under the door or something. Nope, it was a spider. I had one of these things that got up underneath my cot, right under my fucking head from where I was sleeping. I was squishing those things all the time. There's always spiders and weird little centipede things and shit crawling around in there. Fucking meth heads fucking walking by screaming at the top of their lungs. Ah, you know, rage screaming. If you go outside to smoke a cigarette, there'd be bums fucking walking up and taking a piss in the bush right next to you or some shit. Yeah, it was nice. Lovely. But there was like people living there. I mean, there was like homos, and there was all these. There were people that. I mean, there was a couple renting a house next to where we were. That both of them were optometrists, which you would think is a good paying job. And the best they could do was to barely scrape by renting some beat up old fucking place, or, you know, room in some beat up old place. There were people living at the same place. Some of them were like numerous software engineers, software designers. There was a fucking guy that worked at like Hewlett Packard or some shit, right? And they couldn't afford something better. One of the guys was a college professor. He couldn't afford something better, you know. There's people living on the street, living in tents, living under bridges, living in their cars, that have 2 full-time jobs. Some of them are living on the street with 2 or 3 fucking master's degrees. You know, there's people living in beat up, disgusting camp trailers, you know, with insects and rats crawling around on the walls, that are working 2 fucking jobs, driving fucking Uber and then working as like a janitor or something somewhere, and they can't afford, you know, anything better than to have to pay some high rent to stay in a beat up shitty camper and stuff. So forgive me if I don't find it super appealing. You know what it is? It's not just like the cost, which is fucking ridiculous. And I don't know if you've noticed that the cost went up like about a third of the way. Basically, the cost of almost everything went up like 1/3 just from last week to this week. People don't even notice the shit, you know. I fucking noticed. I noticed that the $8 pack of lunch meat that I thought was ridiculously expensive when I bought it last week for $8 was more ridiculously expensive when I bought it this week for $12. Yeah. I noticed things. I talked to people at the laundromat talking about how they've been paying $1,000 a month rent, and they just raised it to $1,500. So that's around the same time, you know. People are saying, "Oh yeah, they're just raising." Like I said, 1/3. Like, and the thing is, man, in order to even get approved to live in one of these fucking apartments, right? If you can afford to pay $1,500 a month, they don't give a shit. They require that you be making $4,500 a month. If their apartment is $1,500 a month, then you have to be making $4,500 a month to be approved to stay there. It's 3-time, you know, it's some kind of rule they have at all these management companies and stuff, that you have to be making 3 times the rent as a minimum. So you can't even if you're making twice what they're charging, they won't let you in. You know, if you got a place for $1,500 and you're making $3,200 a month, you're not going to get approved. They're not going to let you in. You basically have to be making like $30 an hour, working full time, to even have a chance of getting approved to rent one of the so-called cheapest apartments. And then, meanwhile, there's like empty houses, empty mobile homes fucking everywhere, and empty apartments everywhere. You know, another thing they fucking do with these apartment complexes is they'll charge you 50, 60 bucks or something for an application fee, and they'll take hundreds and hundreds of applications and not approve anyone. And then they just made, say you get 100 fucking people that apply for an apartment, right? And they give them 50 bucks. Well, that's $5,000. That's more than the $1,500 a month in rent, isn't it? See, that's what a lot of them do. Or even if they only get 50 applicants, well, then they just made fucking $2,500 that month, and nobody's staying in the apartment. That's what they do a lot of the time. That's one of the reasons for the housing situation is that too. But and there's a whole bunch of like mobile homes and houses and stuff that are like owned by the banks because somebody will die and they won't leave their house to anyone or whatever, you know. And or it gets foreclosed or whatever, and the banks take it, and then the banks don't even list it for sale. It just sits there empty forever. It's fucked, man. And there's all these people that, you know, millionaires, multi-millionaires that make a shitload of money, and they use these management agencies and stuff to fuck people over basically on their behalf, and then they just sit back and watch the money roll in basically, because they'll buy some old house that, you know, probably when it was brand new, you know, when it was built, the you know, probably cost like fucking, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 to build the fucking thing in the first place, and they'll find it for sale, some sort of auction or whatever, and manage to, if they have the right connections, manage to buy it fucking cheap, and then they'll just put up some walls and doors and stuff, and or if it's already got a bunch of rooms, and they'll rent out every single room. Make a fucking massive living, you know. And then of course they'll have all these fucking rules like no smoking, you know. It's like, oh yeah, the 120-year-old house, I'm sure no one's ever had a cigarette in here. Seriously? Oh god. Spiders don't seem to mind. Right? Fuck, man. I just feel like I've heard people talk about like this. If you want to hear anything like about targeted individual or whatever, there's a couple of guys' channels on YouTube that I know are like legit, real deal, because they deal with similar shit to what I do, or some of them even deal with worse shit. This one dude, Regato, man, he went to try and buy a camper, and the guy just like fucked with his head, and as soon as he gets in there, the guy shuts the door, the camper fucking bursts into flames. Like, looks like sounds like someone tried to firebomb him or something, like. And he does a lot of the same sort of shit, like being followed around everywhere, things fucking weird shit happening, you know. Like you try and walk to a store at fucking 11 or 12, and there will be people sitting in their car like staring at you. People, you know, every corner you take, there'll be have somebody following you. You go to the fucking store, and the clerk is nice to everybody else, so mad dogging you, dirty looks and shit. They're charging you more money than anybody else is getting charged. That's what the fuck it's like, man. It's like, I don't get it as bad as some of these other people do, though. Sometimes I do. But sometimes I do. Sometimes I've had some really bad shit, but like fucking go to the park to, to try to find some peace walking in the fucking woods and stuff. And I'll park in like an empty parking lot, and like 30 seconds or a minute after I get there, like 30 fucking brand new looking cars pull in and surround me. And a fucking 100 people jump out, and they're all just standing around staring at me and shit. You know, or I'll have to try to get a car, right? And the banks are closed, and I can't get enough money out of the account because the machine won't give me enough, and the banks are on holiday that they just made up all of a sudden. So it'll take me fucking 3, 4, 5 days or almost a week or something to even get the money to buy the damn car. And then I get the car, and I got to get title and tags and everything. So I go to the DMV. I got a bunch of fucking traffic blocking me everywhere. I got trucks parked in the middle of the road, like blocking my path, so I can't even get there. And then when I get there, there's a fucking sign on the door that says, "This DMV is closed." And you call around all the other DMVs, well, they're all fucking closed. And then have to drive, way the fuck away, drive out of the county to even find a fucking DMV that's open and deal with that shit. Like, that's the kind of shit that'll happen, man. Or on the more intense shit is like, I know it's gonna sound kind of nuts if I say some of the shit that I've experienced. Well, one time I got buzzed by like 3 low-flying Apache helicopters that were fully armed in the backyard when I was out watering the garden. And this is after I had mentioned something about a big plane spraying chemtrails or whatever. Some plane and the yellow shit that was in the rain afterwards. There was some kind of a big, like, cargo plane flying over, just spreading this. It was like a blue sky, sunny day, and this thing flew over and spread this like black shit all over right above the fucking house, and it spread out and then fucking rained, and the rain was like yellow, like there was yellow powder, some sort of yellow powder substance in the rain. I looked it up, tried to research to figure out what it was, and one of the things that came up was stuff called T2 mycotoxin. So I don't know what the hell it was. But yeah, after I mentioned that on the internet, I got fucking buzzed by like 3 armed Apaches in the backyard. Another time I went to the river because I would go there to try to get some peace and calm and communion with nature or whatever, right? And I standing by the river there, walk down this trail, stand by the river, and I look up, and there's these like fucking military attack drones, like 5 of them, just going around in a circle. I knew what they were because I had this at the time. I think somebody had put out some picture on that said drone identification chart or whatever, and so I had that picture on my phone at the time. I looked at it and I look up and I looked at wondering what they were, and yeah, it was some sort of it's freaky shit, man. I've had some serious, like, fucking, what do they call it? I forget what they call it, but it's like when they put on a show, like there's some sort of a skit going on meant to frighten you or mess with your head. I could have people shining lights and laser pointers at my surveillance cameras at the house, stuff like that. Have fucking MRAP show up and messing with the neighbors, but I don't think they really did anything, and they're just standing in the road marching back and forth and shining lasers and stuff at my fucking camera. They're just trying to scare me or something, shit like that, man. Or it can get pretty fucking crazy sometimes, man. I had a fucking some other mill helicopter fucking follow me one time in Salem. I don't know, it sounds like shit that crazy people say or whatever, but I shit you not, dude. I was riding the bike like miles away from my dad's house, and this thing pulls up on me, and it followed me for miles around every turn, low altitude. And when I got to my dad's, it sat on the porch and just hovered there out front. And then like a week later or something, or even sooner than that or something, I got some kind of fucking like job offer from Craigslist from somebody wanting me. They said they wanted me to come move some tables at the military base. Like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit, dude. I've had some fucking freaky shit, man. Shit that'll just scare the crap out of you, man. It's fucking weird, man. And I'm not even sure what I did a lot of the time. Maybe it's because stupid conspiracy shit I researched or whatever. Or maybe I said something to piss somebody off when I was a teenager, or who knows what. But I've been getting like kind of messed with, followed around, and kept out of things, like doors shut in my face or something for most of my adult life. In a way, it almost kind of started to happen when I was a kid. There was a time when I was a kid and we used to go to church, and everything seemed brighter, sunnier, better, happier. Had a pretty good childhood at first, and then something changed, and it was like, seemed like the house was haunted suddenly, and I was having all these night terrors, and my family stopped going to church, and they started fighting a lot, screaming at each other and throwing things across the room, and I started to get beat up by, cousins and others, and throw me down the fucking stairs over and over. I'd be crying, and my parents would just be, and their parents would just be sitting in the living room fucking smiling or whatever, while I'm fucking laying in, and they'd just drag me back up the stairs and throw me back down again. Shit like that, and the fucking neighbor kids would fuck with me. This big guy that, he's probably a little runt now or whatever, but when I was a kid, he was fucking huge, compared to me. Jeremy, yeah. Of course, my cousin kicked his ass one day. That was cool. Yeah. My cousin Kevin, man, fucking kicked his ass and threw him in a sticker bush. No, like, for the most part, like, I've had fucking shit messing with me my whole life, man. Most of my life. So something changed, man, and it was, or when I was a kid, man, I used to, sometimes I'd wake up. This is getting into more freaky stuff. It's like, alien abductee sort of fucking shit, kind of. I don't know, man. I know I would wake up, I'd have these fucking horrible nightmares, and then sometimes I would go to sleep, I'd wake up and I'd have scratches on me. Other times I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and I would be in the opposite direction of the bed, like my head would be at the foot of the bed, and the blankets and pillow and everything had like switched places, so it's all at the foot of the bed instead of the head of the bed, Or I'd go to sleep and in my bed, and I'd wake up downstairs in a fucking chair in the living room, stuff like that. You'd see shit around the house moving, like, a plant would start swinging around back and forth by itself. And fucking, you hear footsteps in the hallways and doors creaking open and closed, and see shadowy figures hovering over the bed sometimes. And I pull the covers over my head and try to, fucking I get sleep paralysis sometimes, or it felt like something was sitting on my chest or something. I couldn't speak. I couldn't yell. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. That sort of shit that happened when I was a kid, man. One time I woke up from this nightmare, and right after I woke up, I heard this sort of dark, demonic fucking laugh, like, I can't even do it, man. It's like more spooky than the demon thing from the movie Legend, you know? Kind of, you know, but fucking, I can't do it, man. Mm-hmm. This thing that used to follow me around in dreams and fucking mess with me. It would take different forms. A lot of times it'd come like show up like a clown or something that would start following me and fucking with me. Just I don't know, I think all this kind of started happening when my sister was like doing witchcraft at the house. Her and her friends were getting into Wicca or something and doing fucking spells and things, and everything just got fucking dark and weird. And there's this thing online that says the symptoms of alien abduction. I just happened to read this at one point. And there's this other thing actually on some article talks about something called an alien love bite or something too. And like when it comes to the list, it's got like 70 something symptoms of alien abduction. And I've got like most of them, not all of them, but like a fair number of them. Like the vast majority of them would be like, yep. And this dude Bill, I know, man, we went to this spot of the river under the bridge or whatever once, kind of golf course there, by the golf course, and he wanted to stay longer and I wanted to leave, so I started walking back toward the house. He comes up driving by with his car a little while, just a short time later, to pick me up or whatever. And he says, "Dude, what happened to you? Where have you been?" I say, "What?" And he says, "Man, I've been driving around for 2 hours out here looking for you." I don't know if he was just full of crap or messing with my head or what, but I know I have had plenty of times where 1 minute it's like 1 minute it's like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the next thing I notice, I look up at the clock and it's like 8 or 9 p.m. or something. Like hours later, just disappeared. Of course, I've had weirder shit than that, though. Much weirder shit than that. Like, 1 minute it's... Never mind. I was just gonna say, like, where it looked like time reversed kind of thing. Or like you sleep and it feels like you slept for 10, 12 hours, but only 20 minutes have passed or something, right? Or you go to sleep and you wake up and it's earlier than it was when you went to sleep, or it's like only a short time later, you know? Or you look at the clock and it's like fucking, 10 a.m. and then it seems like a couple hours later and it says it's 8, like what? Or it's like 9 or it's still 10 somehow. That sounds pretty fucking batshit right there, but I'm telling you, man. Like, that's kind of Mandela effect level sort of shit, you know, that people don't usually talk about. I don't know if anyone's experienced that too. I've experienced some really, really fucking weird shit with the Mandela effect ever since that shit started happening. One time I watched the moon. It was rising up, and I was sitting out there in the back porch, and a little while later the moon looked like it had reversed course in the sky, and it went down and off to the left when it was going up, and it was traveling up and to the right, and then it traveled back down and to the left, and then it went back forward again. I saw some other weird shit that I only know of one other person that saw this, that I know of that saw this. It's a dude named Scott over in the UK. And I talked to him about it. He saw it too. There was this night where the moon had another face on it, you know, that looked like a fucking alien. I think he's the only one that saw that, or the only one that talked about it. He said, yeah, I saw that. You know, like the man on the moon, but there was this thing that looked like a freaking alien that was next to the man on the moon. Like a gray, you know, like it had been drawn on there or something. Maybe it was a hologram or something, I don't know. Somebody projected a hologram on it for a minute or something. I don't know what the fuck it was weird. I had another thing that was like really fucking weird. Night or morning or whatever, I woke up, and I think it was only like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, but I got woke up by all these birds singing, and it wasn't like the normal birds that we usually have around. It sounded different, like jungle birds or something, I don't know. And there were so many of them, they were singing so loud, and it sounded strange and repetitive, like it was a audio recording or something that was just being looped over and over. And I go outside, and it's fucking light outside at like 3 in the morning. Like the sun's out, it's light outside at like 3 a.m. You hear all these birds singing everywhere. But the air was completely still, and I looked all over the place, I looked in the trees, I didn't see a single fucking bird anywhere. It kind of reminds me of like how people are seeing airplanes like frozen in place in the sky, and birds frozen in place in the sky. I've seen shit like that, but I've seen a leaf that was like stuck in the air that seemed to just stay in place. You know, that's the sort of shit that leads me to think maybe we're in a goddamn computer simulation, you know? And you can see all these videos of like birds getting stuck in the sky and airplanes stuck in place in the sky and stuff like that. Helicopters appearing to fly without the propellers spinning, you know? Shit like that. That's like, you know, video game glitches or something sort of thing, right? And all these little changes. There's this one guy that started talking about the Mandela effect. Took him a while, but I guess what he does is he's involved in like the software for like grocery stores and stuff for their inventory. And he found out that they were having this problem when that Mandela effect shit kicked off. Like the stores were having problem with their merchandise because, well, like for instance, they would somebody would bring a jar of Jif peanut butter up, but their computer in their inventory has it listed as Jiffy, right? Or they'd buy a Haas avocado that was spelled Haas, right? It used to be, and now it's spelled Haas, you know. Or Vlasic has it's spelled different. A bunch of stuff. Bragg's apple cider vinegar become Bragg, you know. on and on and on. All these different things, you know, Fruit Loops becomes FROOT, etc., etc. So, like, the fucking checkouts, people were having issues because their computer said it was spelled the way it used to be, but now it's spelled different, you know. So it was causing trouble with the inventory. Like, for instance, cupo noodles versus cup noodles, or Stouffer's stovetop stuffing becomes Kraft stovetop stuffing. I don't know. I figured, you know, some of the stuff is probably just some sort of inventory change. Some of it, but like a name change, or like a, you know, Anheuser-Busch, right? I remember it being spelled H-E, you know, Anheiser, and then it changed to Anheuser. There's a couple other like beer related ones that seem to change. Like, for instance, when the Mandela effect started to kick off, you know, with me, one of the things I noticed was I've had some pretty intense experience. I've seen some shit that probably almost nobody's fucking seen before. There was a time that the steering wheel location of my fucking truck switched to the passenger side, but that only happened very shortly. I was very, very hungover at the time, and also it looked like the garbage cans, our garbage can, had changed and was like a different color and different size and everything. But again, I was very hungover, but at the same time, you know, I did see that shit, right? And I saw the, well, all the 40 ounces of beer and stuff back then. I remember them all being glass, and then it's like one day all the glass bottles just disappeared and were replaced by plastic. And there wouldn't have even been enough time for that to have happened, for them to have, because they still had inventory of the glass shit, so someone would have had to come in, take all the glass ones away, and put plastic ones in their place. So why would they do that, right? And I also noted, I saw this movie with like David Spade and Adam Sandler where they bring up something called Coors Party Ball. So apparently, back in the day, they and up until like I don't remember 2008 or 2000, like into the 2000s, there used to be these, I think till like 2010 or something. They used to sell these things called party balls, or like party kegs or whatever, and you could buy this box that looked like a 30-pack box or something, and it would have like, or you know, different sizes. Some of them were like 5 gallons of beer that came with a tap and everything, and it was a good price. It sounded like it was a good price too for back then, for what you get, right? Well, no fucking way, man. You tell me I've never seen or heard of one of those in my entire life until they weren't sold anymore. If those things had existed, man, I would have had our whole fucking shed like floor to ceiling stacked with those fucking things. I would have had like a big pile. There would have been a big pile of them in the fucking yard or something, you know. Like, and nobody I know's ever even fucking heard of the things or seen them, you know. But suddenly they used to exist, apparently, right? That's just the beer related ones, you know. There's a lot of other shit. Like, take the, talking Mandela effect. Take the Lindbergh baby, for instance, right? Why would I even know anything about the Lindbergh baby, right? If it went down like they now say it went down. Because I can remember very clearly the Lindbergh baby. It was like a super famous missing persons case. They talked about it on Unsolved Mysteries. There were jokes made about it on The Simpsons. You know, on and on. I mean, it was a big deal. I saw the freaking broadcast, that like the Charles Lindbergh or whatever had paid for, that was like a missing, reward, offering a reward for the return of his son. But now they found the kid, and the guy, he was murdered or whatever, and the guy got arrested and case solved, right? So why the fuck would I even know about that, right? How come me and a whole bunch of other people remember Ricky Ricardo saying, "Lucy, you got some explaining to do," but you can't find a single fucking episode where he says that now? He said that like every episode. Or you could look up, you can't find an episode of Captain Kirk in Star Trek saying fucking "beam me up, Scotty." You can't find, you can go try to watch the, Lassie or something, and Timmy never falls down the well. There's all kinds of shit like that, man. There's like a bunch of newspaper articles, old newspaper articles, that say that all the passengers were saved from the Titanic collision. Right? Boat hull to Halifax. All passengers rescued at sea. Yeah. I mean, it's some fucking weird shit. There's all kinds of stuff that, like, you would have known about, right? Like the Black Tom event. On big fucking huge things. That you would have known about that in school. You would have heard about it, I have a picture of a stack of Berenstain Bears books spelled the way I remember. I got a picture of a guy standing in a mall in front of a J.C. Penney's. The way it was spelled, the way I remember it, And this whole thing is like, it's been weird. Seemed very intentional, right? Because like they talk about Nelson Mandela all the fucking time, right? And then he dies, and then you're like, what the fuck? I thought he died years ago, And then you find out that he had some charity organization called 46664, so he's walking around with 666 on his fucking chest. Big fucking event, 666, right? And there's all this other shit that's like, kind of points to demonic shit. Like, there's a bunch of depictions of Moses with horns, like he's a demon or something. There's the Thinking Man statue. People talk about the Thinking Man statue because they say, oh, his pose changed. No, it used to be his right fist under his chin with his elbow rested on his knee, or what. People have different memories of this shit. That's how I remember it. His legs weren't fucking crossed. He had his elbow like on his leg, on his knee, basically. Right knee, right arm, fist firmly stick up under his chin. And that changed a bit. But what people don't talk about is how that statue now, in our current history, was a depiction of Faust. And that there's a larger statue of it where it's included in something called the Gates of Hell. Yeah. And there's a bunch of other stuff too, like that, like the God damn it, Pistis Sophia is still around. Wasn't destroyed by the Romans and stuff centuries ago, apparently. And the freaking Temple of Zeus Ammon is still intact, but it was moved to Berlin. Yeah. And there's a bunch of other temples too, like one that was destroyed in the Iraq War that's still mostly standing. That was like what was that a temple for? One of the fucking like Baal, I think. And they built a bunch of freaking, a bunch of gateways to that temple all over the world, like New York, London, fucking all over the fucking place. They built these gateways that are, you know, remake depictions of the Temple of Baal fucking entrance. They put those up all over the fucking place, DC, everywhere. There's a bunch of like ancient temples that had been destroyed centuries ago that are back. Yeah. But, you know, most people don't notice that shit because they're not, I don't know, maybe they weren't interested in architecture or ancient history or anything, you know. Or they hadn't heard the stories of the destruction of the Temple of Sophia and on, all these things. Old Gnostic, it was an old Gnostic church, basically. And it seems like there might be a lot of books that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up one day and the Library of Alexandria was never burned or something, you know? Something like that. Something vast, huge like that, you know? It's weird, man. I mean, it's getting really crazy, man. And the scariest fucking thing is how most people don't even seem to notice. I mean, I could walk into a grocery store tomorrow and they could have the lunch meat could be $500 for a pack of lunch meat. And the other piece shoppers would just walk around with a blank look on their face and go, oh, that seems a little expensive. Stick in their cart, you know, like... I mean, it's like a frog in a pot scenario, but at this point it's like boiling, you know? And people just don't even seem to notice. And it's like you try to jump out of the pot and all the other frogs are jumping on your back and grabbing your legs and shit. Hey, come on in, the water's fine. You know? Fuck, man. Not sure what the hell I'm supposed to do. Alright.